County Zoning Board to order. Will the secretary call the roll?
Mary Beth Taylor,
Here.
Brian Bangert,
Brian Banger. You gotta say here. No audio.
I can see you, Brian. Can you say something? We'll note that Brian is here. Michael Kurtz,
Here.
Rick Dean,
Here.
Julia Turner,
Here.
Ruth Novosad,
Here, present.
Jim Finnegan.
Here. We have 7 members. That creates a quorum so we can conduct business. This time, has everyone looked at the minutes of last month?
I move we approve the minutes as written.
We have a second.
Second.
Who was that, Turner?
Ruth, second.
Ruth, okay. So we have a motion by Kurtz, a second by Novosad. We have a roll call vote.
Taylor,
Yes.
Bangert, would you raise your hand, Brian? Tell us you're okay. Good. Michael Kurtz,
Yes.
Rick Dean,
Yes.
Julia Turner,
Yes.
Novosad,
Yes.
Finnegan.
Yes. So they are officially approved. Do we have anybody wanting to speak to us from the public? Bill?
We had nobody requested at this time to hear anything not on the agenda, but I do have something to read about procedure.
Okay.
If any case is finished and the ZBA has discussed it and voted on it, the case will be considered complete. If any case is not finished, or if the GoToMeeting system crashes, or the ZBA meeting or ZBA members are not able to adequately communicate before a vote is taken on a case by the ZBA, the case will be continued until 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 6, 2020. Please contact the Department of Building and Zoning at 309-888-5160 for a link to this meeting. The ZBA bylaws allow the chair to impose time limits on opening, closing, or other statements or questions or any portion of the proceedings. The chair will limit questioning of witnesses to 1 series of questions per person per witness. A note for those watching via YouTube live stream: the YouTube stream is not an interactive medium. Any comments on the YouTube live stream are not monitored and will not be addressed in the meeting. The only public comments or other testimony that will be addressed are those that have been submitted in accordance with the published agenda for this meeting. Please mute your phones or computers and turn your cameras off unless you are on the ZBA or you are approved to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. This time I'm gonna affirm the staff. Do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that the testimony you give in this case now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, or you suffer the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Okay, we're gonna call our first case. Case ZV 2009. And I'm gonna botch the name, so I'm not gonna say it.
This is an application of Nicholas Safranek, case number ZV-20-09, for a variance in maximum area of accessory buildings to allow 1,826 square feet rather than 1,500 square feet as allowed in the R1 single family residence district. This is on lot 32 in the Indian Creek subdivision in the southwest quarter of section 29, township 25 north, range 3 east of the 3rd principal meridian, located in Old Town Township at 3 Fox Creek Road, Towanda, Illinois. Public notice of this hearing was published in the Pantograph on August 15, 2020, as provided by law. All the other required notifications have been made, and the applicant has paid the publication costs. As the first exhibit, I would like to have his application, which just makes this request, and the plat map that you saw above you just previously. And a communication from the county health department indicating they're okay with this proposed use. The standards which were attached to your staff report that Mr. Safranek included in his application. A site plan showing the proposed new garage that's on the screen now that he's proposing to build, and what the proposed garage will look like, and a zoning map showing that this property is in the R1 single family residence district. And this property is just a little bit north of Towanda. I'll deliver the staff report at this, I'll show you the photos. This is the property on that the applicant, where he lives, and the house is on your left, and this is the road in front of the house facing north, and then facing south where it comes to a stop sign. And this is the property across the road from the applicant's. And this is the front of his house. And to the left is the driveway. Oh no, this is the driveway where he proposes to put the garage in front of these, on the far side of these vehicles. The road that you can see in the background is Towanda Barnes Road. And this is facing the opposite direction where which will be the back of the proposed garage. And this is facing the other direction, and that's Towanda Barnes Road, facing west, I mean. And this is the aerial photo of the property. To the left is Towanda Barnes Road, and the driveway is in front. I'll deliver the staff report at this time. The applicant proposes to construct a 26 by 38 building in which to store the his boat trailer and camper, since subdivision covenants don't allow outside storage of these items. The analysis of the 7 standards are as follows. The physical surrounding shape or topographical conditions of the property will cause a particular hardship to the owner, as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were carried out. The applicant needs to store his boat, trailer, and camper in a building, since the subdivision covenants do not allow these items to be stored in the open yard. He wants to build a 932 square foot building in which to store these items. 2, the conditions upon which a petition for a variance is based are unique to the property for which the variance is sought and are not applicable generally to other property within the same zoning classification. The applicant needs to store a boat, trailer, and camper in a building due to a covenant limitation on storing these items outside. The proposed building will meet the setback requirements. The purpose of the variance is not based exclusively upon a desire to make more money out of the property. The applicant proposes to use the proposed building to store his boat, trailer, and camper. 4, the alleged difficulty or hardship is caused by this ordinance and has not been created by persons having an interest in the property. The applicant needs a larger building than the ordinance will allow in which to store his boat, trailer, and camper. 5, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other improvements in the neighborhood in which the property is located. The proposed variance will not likely impact adjacent properties, since the proposed building will be the required 20 foot from the side property line, and the health department recommends approval of this request. 6, the proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, or substantially increase the congestion of the public street, or increase the danger of fire or endanger the public safety or substantially diminish or impair property values in the neighborhood. The proposed building will be 20 feet from the side property line and 50 feet from the rear property line. 5, the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land or structure. The applicant proposes to use the proposed building to store his boat trailer and camper. In conclusion, staff recommends that this application meets the standards of the county code.
Mr. Stepnick, would you like to be sworn in?
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case now and hearing be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Will you state your name and address for the record?
That's Nick Safranek, and my address is 3 Fox Creek Road in Towanda, Illinois, 61776.
Would you like to make an opening statement?
I don't know what else I could add other than what Phil said. The road that's behind my house is not Towanda Barnes Road. It's County Road 1900. Not that that really matters, but we're not on Towanda Barnes Road out where we're at. But anyways, I just looking to build a detached garage to store some stuff in, and wasn't aware that I needed that my existing garage counted towards the square footage until I started working with the building department. So, but anyways, that's where we're at today, and just asking for a variance for a couple hundred feet, square feet, to be able to construct that building.
Okay. Would you turn your mic back on? Thank you. Anyone on the board have questions of this witness? I don't see anybody. Do you have any questions, Phil?
No.
Has anyone called in requesting anything about this case?
They've called in and we've answered their questions. They verified that they have the covenant that calls for these equipment to be stored inside rather than outside, so that we verified that.
So in other words, though, there's nobody going to testify.
That's correct.
Okay. At this point, would you like to make a closing statement?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. This part of the hearing is closed, and we can probably just go to the standards. I just read them off. If anybody has a problem with them, we'll talk about them. Standard 1, standard 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I move that we recommend approval of ZB 2009.
Second.
We have a motion by Kurtz, a second by Turner. Is that right?
Just as a reminder, this is a final decision.
Do we have a roll call vote?
Taylor,
Yes.
Bangert,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Novosad,
Yes.
Finnegan.
Yes. Motion carries. Bill will tell you what you need to do here.
We can go ahead and issue a permit on this as early as tomorrow. I will send you a letter in the mail within the week and letting you know that you need to file for a permit within a year.
Thank you. Got a question, Phil. We continued this, or we have recessed this till 7:15. Do we need to do something on this case?
The next case is scheduled for 7:15.
But I think we recessed the win till 7:15 if my recollection is right. Do we need
I think we recessed it until 7:30.
Okay, as long as we're okay. We're going to move on to the next case, ZV 2010. Will the secretary call this case?
This is case number ZV-20-10, application of Nathan Edwards for a variance in front setback requirements to allow a detached garage to be 6 feet from the property line rather than 30 feet as required in the R1 Single Family Residence District. This is on lots 1 and 2 in Block 3 in the Village of Shirley in the northeast quarter of Section 35, Township 23 North, Range 1 east of the 3rd Principal Meridian, located in Dale Township at 10823 Lafayette Street, Shirley, Illinois. Public notice of this hearing was published in the Pantograph on August 15, 2020, as provided by law. All the other required notifications have been made, and the applicant has paid the publication cost. As the first exhibit, I'll introduce the application, and there is a plat map that I think was on the screen. There we go, showing where this is located in Shirley, which is in Dale Township, right off of I-55. And a site plan showing where this property is located and showing the proposed garage located 6 feet from the property line. And once you see the photos, you'll see that it is actually quite a ways from where the actual traffic goes, and there's very little traffic on this road. And we have a communication from the County Health Department indicating that they support this variance. And a zoning map showing that this property is in the R1 Single Family Residence District. And this is, it's Ohio Street that goes in a northeasterly direction. And it's Lafayette Street, which is east and west on the north side of this property. And then north of Lafayette Street is a farm field. And I'll show you photos at this time. This is Lafayette Street facing west. The applicant's house is on your left. You can just see it barely here. And this is his house right here. And this is the side yard of his house. The lot to the west is vacant. And this is facing north across Lafayette Street where there's a farm field. And this is the proposed garage, and that paved area to the right is where he proposes on which to put the new proposed garage. And you'll see that that corner is about 6 feet from the edge of the road right away. And one of the later photos will show you where that stake is. And this is Ohio Street facing to the northeast. And if you look on the screen right in front of that red car, you can see a stake. That's where the edge of the right-of-way is. And that is actually, the proposed garage will be 6 feet from it, but it really is quite a distance from where the traffic goes. Again, this is the aerial photo of the property. I'll read the staff report at this time. The applicant proposes to replace an existing dilapidated one-car garage with a new two-car detached garage on a lot that is irregular in shape and substandard in area. The first standard, the physical surrounding shape or topographical conditions of the specific property will cause particular hardship to the owner as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were carried out. The property is substandard in area and irregular in shape. The lot is 0.23 acres in area. Standard lots are a half acre. The property is triangular in shape. An existing shed located on the same property line as the proposed two-car garage is 9.9 feet from the front property line. The applicant proposes to build a new two-car garage on the same footprint of an existing garage and adjacent parking pad. The conditions upon which a petition for a variance is based are unique to the property for which the variance is sought and are not applicable generally to other property in the same zoning classification. The lot is 0.23 acres in area. Standard lots are half acre. The property is triangular in shape. 3, the purpose of the variance is not based exclusively upon a desire to make more money out of the property. The applicant wants to replace an existing dilapidated single-car garage with a new two-car garage for his own use. 4, the alleged difficulty or hardships caused by this ordinance and has not been created by persons having an interest in the property. The buildings on this property were built before zoning was established in the county. The applicant wants to replace an existing dilapidated single-car garage with a new two-car garage for his own use. 5, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other improvements or property in the neighborhood in which the property is located. The applicant proposes to build a new garage in the same footprint of an existing garage and adjacent parking pad. The Health Department recommends approval of this request. 6, the proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property or substantially increase congestion of the public street or increase the danger of fire or endanger the public safety or substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. An existing shed located on the same property line as the proposed two-car garage is 9.9 feet from the front property line. The applicant proposes to build a new garage at the same location of the existing garage and adjacent parking pad. 7, the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land or structure. The applicant wants to replace an existing dilapidated single-car garage with a new two-car garage. The applicant proposes to build a new garage at the same location of the existing garage and adjacent parking pad. In conclusion, staff recommends that this application meets the standards of the county code. That concludes my report.
We lost Mr. Edwards. I can't find his picture anywhere.
He's
The
back.
bottom left.
You need to
This is
turn your mic on. Nathan, you need to turn your mic on.
We
Can
don't
you hear
have
me now?
I can hear you. I can't, we don't have a picture for some reason.
Yeah, my camera crashed a little while ago. It said for some reason I couldn't run it, but if you can hear me, at least I can do audio.
Okay, we can hear you fine, or I can. Would you like to
Okay,
be,
good.
would you like to be sworn
What's
in?
that? Sure.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Would you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Nathan David Edwards. I live at 10823 Lafayette. That would be in Shirley, Illinois. Zip 61772.
You get it, Phil? Would you like to make an opening statement, Mr. Edwards?
Just that I would appreciate the approval based on the fact that the garage that's currently there just is really not usable. Have 2 cars to park in a garage, and also other things, material and whatnot, tools and everything else. I just need storage for the current structure. Just really doesn't permit it. Just in really bad shape overall.
Okay, would you have any questions from the board?
Not to come to mind.
Okay, so everybody's shaking their head no. Would you have any questions, Phil?
I do not.
Has anyone called in about this case that we need to address?
No, they have not.
Okay. I think at this point then, would you like to make a closing statement?
No, that's okay.
Okay. So this part of the hearing is closed and we can probably go to the standards on this case also, unless somebody has a problem. I'll just read them off again. Standard number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
I'd recommend approval of case ZV-20-10.
I'll second it.
Second.
We have a motion by Dean, a second by Banger. Could we have a roll call vote?
Taylor,
Yes.
Bangert,
Yes.
Fritz,
yes,
Dean,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes,
Novosad,
Yes.
Finnegan.
Yes. Motion carries. And Phil, you can explain it.
Mr. Edwards, we can take your permit as early as tomorrow. This is a final decision. I will send you a letter to that effect within a week.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I only have 7:27. We probably ought to wait 3 minutes.
I've got a question for Scott, if he's still available. Phil can probably answer this. My question is, if my laptop or whatever you call this thing goes dead on me, can I seamlessly change over to my phone fairly easily? Is that a process you have to be involved with, or can I just do that? Okay. Okay, that may happen here about the middle of this next session, okay? Thanks.
Can you log into on two devices so that when your original device dies, you're already logged in on the other one? Would that help?
Yes, you could.
sometimes you get feedback when you do that, though.
You mute one of them.
Okay, thanks for the help.
So do you think October is going to be an in-person meeting, or we will do Zoom again? Are we establishing a pool or taking bets or anything?
What opinions do the zoning board have with regard to having a public meeting?
I'm okay with it. You know, I think we'll have certain protocols to follow, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I hate to see Jim. I think he's kind of lonely up there.
Come on over.
Ruth, were you talking about September or October? Did you say October?
Yeah.
Yeah, this
I-
is the September, October I was talking about.
I would want to see what the numbers in the county are doing at that point. We're having quite a surge right now.
I agree. In smaller cases, it'd be a whole lot better than something like this. Anything to do with wind farms.
Well,
Well,
I
that's
got,
what I was thinking. Isn't the wind farm on the agenda for October?
If we can finish this case this evening, we would have that letter of credit heard in October.
I have 7:30, so we can reconvene the case, ZA 2003. And I think at this point, Phil, give us a little direction here where we're at.
I think my understanding is we finished the questioning, and I have 3 statements that people have submitted that we're obligated to read and put as part of the minutes. So I could read those at this time if the chair is okay with that.
I'm fine with it.
This is dated August 4th to McLean County Zoning Board. I am aware of a request by Geronimo Energy to build wind turbines 675 feet, exceeding the present 550 feet by 125 feet. Why do bigger turbines need to be built in McLean County? I thought the Land Use Committee set up standards to be followed and not changed. I have farm ground in the middle of EDPR's wind farm and am deeply saddened what has happened to beautiful country living in some of America's heartland. Northeastern McLean County has become an industrial park. I notice all but one of the Land Use Committee members live in the city. Have any of you ever driven to the country to observe what you have approved? Bill Flick wrote a list of things to do during his pandemic in his Sunday column. Find one of those wind turbines swirling mightily out in the sticks. That's what farm country is to him. Get underneath and listen to the creepy whoosh whoosh sounds of a device so huge at 360 feet tall. EDPs are 550 feet. Each turbine sweeps an area well over an entire football field. The turbines he is speaking of is the Twin Groves Wind Farm east of Bloomington. They are 360 feet. The huge EDP turbines also make a noise. Serrated blades do nothing, and you can hear the head turn on certain days. Please do not change the standards and approve taller wind turbines to be built. According to the National Wind Watch, bigger turbines don't run more efficiently than smaller ones, and they require a larger area around them. Preserve country living. Sincerely, Sandra Whalen. This next communication I have is from Gary and Amy Butler. I moved into my new home 15 years ago, about right now. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that I would be sitting here this evening watching a interrupting flash on my walls caused by the giant wind turbines just west of my home. When is enough? Enough. You have set the parameters for these projects. Why would you even consider adjusting these? I also believe allowing another permit for an additional wind projects should be carefully reviewed. Consider everyone who is affected by such construction. How much did the value of my property decrease? No one can guess, but I am positive it has not increased. The county board has sold our farmland and rural residences out for the almighty dollar. Gary and Amy Butler, 28355 North, 2360 East Road, Chenoa, Illinois. This third communication is from Lori Sleater. Dear McLean County Zoning Board members, thank you for listening to my concerns. My name is Lori Sleater, and we live in the midst of the Blooming Grove Wind Turbine Project in northeastern McLean County. My address is 23903 North, 2900 East Road, Lexington. Completed on August 12, the closest turbine to our home is directly west of our house, and it's not turning yet. We have a 1,000-foot lane. The turbine is approximately 1,000 feet from our lane, totaling 2,000 feet, which is only a 25 feet difference as the upcoming setback distance requirement for the 675 feet turbines. You may say the setback has not been determined. However, it should be taken into consideration now. A bean field surrounds our house and is farmed by my family. If the sun were out today, the turbine's shadow is 1,500 feet long and covers the bean field for about 500 feet towards the west. Once the sunset moves further south, the shadow flicker will be well into and directly on our lane and our property. Since this 500-foot turbine shadow is 1,500 feet long, with 500 feet of shadow on the property, the taller 675-foot turbine's shadow would be roughly 3 times the height at 2,025 feet and would completely cover our house. Is this what you want rural residents to experience? Remember, the blades have not started spinning yet, and the maximum time for shadow flicker on anyone's house is 30 hours per year. I do not understand why Geronimo is allowed to decide the height of a turbine, not the ZBA or McLean County Board, as they have been paying landowners in McLean County for use of their property for over 2 years. How in the world would this project be turned down at this point? What is the purpose of this meeting? Have you ever said no to a project that's been going on for 2 years? What is the purpose of the ZBA if you don't need data from established 675 feet turbines in noise, vibration, wildlife, decommissioning, etc., to make your decision? How can you rely on having zero data to base your decision on? I appreciate your questions at the last meeting on August 4, although no answers were provided. Is that good enough? Why is the FAA height maximums not an issue any longer? That was a big discussion point in the Blooming Grove project. Will crop dusters be able to operate safely? Although the turbines in our area have completed construction, the high amount of traffic remains, so I disagree with Geronimo's claim there will be less traffic. Our road, now graveled, widened, and constantly watered and holes filled, would be the same whether less or more turbines were built. Roads still need to be prepared and maintained for any construction project, and the amount of turbines built have little impact on the types of traffic. I feel perhaps not the frequency. Either way, the traffic is very disruptive. Few if many turbines construction. Few or many turbines constructed. I feel that it should not be basis of your decision. The other items on today's agenda included 2 garages for 2 individuals. The turbine height increase affects 170,000 residents in McLean County. It's apples and oranges, yet the same method is used. An online discussion which greatly limits the amount of participants. I feel this issue should be delayed until COVID-19 restrictions are lifted. Geronimo has already stated their project may not begin construction for another year or a year and a half. So the question remains, why make this recommendation now? Are you doing Geronimo a favor or representing the residents of McLean County? Which is more important? I believe each citizen's testimony should bear more weight, as people who are present have chosen to serve on the zoning board. I believe that each person taking the time to speak or submit their viewpoint stands for at least 500 to 1,000 citizens of McLean County who believe they cannot make a difference and have decided it's not worth the effort. This is sad. At the last meeting, no one was present from West and Bellflower townships, which indicate to me no one knows this type of situation happened in our Lexington, Chinoa townships. No one knew. Either the wind companies deliberately keep folks out of the loop, or no one pays attention or reads the legal notices, unfortunately. I'm guessing Geronimo has done a good job contacting the landowners, and I also feel everyone who is not a large landowner is unaware of the changes to come. Why is there not a procedure for contacting people who live within the project area and a good neighbor agreement? If you were to mention the Sapphire Sky project to anyone in southeastern McLean County, would anyone know what you're talking about? I've checked with my fellow editor in that area and she knew nothing. Yes, my concerns may be better addressed when Geronimo applies for their permit. However, shouldn't the facts certainly be taken into account now? At this early time, only one entity will benefit from an approval, and it's Geronimo. It's been very quiet and peaceful out here in the country. Very soon, the humming, wishing of the nearly 25 wind turbines surrounding my home will start. However, I know exactly what to expect from John Schlegel's excellent sound map, and I'm dreading that time. You based your decision on other wind projects from real data, from sound studies, etc. Now you are basing your decision on only one thing, a request from this company. Is that enough information to make a wise choice? Thank you. And that's from Lori Sleater. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, at this point, I think we're gonna ask for testimony. Anyone who wants to give testimony on the case, is that right, Bill?
Yes.
So at this point, is anyone in the audience want to give testimony on this case? Please come forward. I don't see anything popping up, Phil. Oh, Tim Jolly. Can we get your audio, Mr. Jolly?
You're on, Tim, if you want to talk.
Working. Okay.
On there or here?
Right here's fine.
I just have a point of order at this point in time. if I
Okay.
may speak. The next step is, we need to make sure we take a list of all the people who intend to speak, and then we can go through all of those folks one by one.
Okay. You want to announce that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just have a point of order at this point in time. If anyone is intending to make a statement or present evidence as an objector or interested party, I would suggest taking the names of those individuals at this point in time and get everyone who wishes to do that, and then go through that list one by one, allowing each person to make their case.
Doesn't look like we. We'll have to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this case now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, help you God?
I do.
Will you state your name and address for the record?
Catherine, Catherine, Metzger, Metsker. My address is 20645 North 825 East Road, and that's in Carlock. The zip code is 61725. I currently live within the footprint of the White Oak town, or the White Oak project, and our turbines are 399 feet tall. We'll tell you that's an enormous, but I also have been out to those that are currently being constructed in the Lexington, Chenoa area, and they're even bigger and more massive. The sound that is being created by the EDP ones now are worse than what I hear at my house. I live a half a mile away from the nearest one, but when I walk with my husband, all we can hear is a swishing noise, a constant swishing noise when we walk down the street or down the roads. So when I was told last time, I believe Mr. Michael Morris, he indicated that the noise would be less. I highly doubt that because the hub is going to be larger. And as I spoke with a physics professor, and he said that the sound is based on the wind going through that blade. Even if the blade is more narrow at the end, the blade is larger at that hub. So it's hard for me to imagine. And he said that you can't predict necessarily that it's not going to be louder. So to pretend that it's not going to be loud is ridiculous. And to pretend that anybody will sue this company because the noise is too loud is ridiculous, because we don't have the money to do that. I was a part of a group that spent $400,000 trying to stop the one in our townships, and we were unable to do it. $400,000. No one can afford this. It's up to you, the zoning board, to decide and to help protect us. And Mrs. Sleater was absolutely right when she said that our discussion and what we share with you should have more weight than somebody that's coming in trying to make money. You're to protect us. That's what your job is. Please try to do that. The other day, I received a phone call from two people who they haven't even started the turbines, all of the turbines yet, in the project in Lexington. And they work at State Farm, and they have children who are trying to also work from home, and they use hotspots. Their hotspots don't work now. What do they have to do? They had to spend money to get a booster on top of their house. Is that what we want to do? Is that the things that we're doing to our rural residents? It sure seems like that's what we do. And we don't seem to care, because we who live out there are tired. All we do is put up with this. We say nothing because it doesn't do us any good. We are so exhausted by this whole thing. Every time you turn around, there's another wind turbine company coming in and asking for something different. 675 feet is way too large. We already have an ordinance. Make them follow the ordinance. Stop the madness. And that's all I have to say.
You gotta stay there for a minute. Anyone on the board have questions of Ms. Mesker? Does staff have questions?
No.
Does the applicant have questions of Ms. Mesker?
No, we don't, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Would anyone else want to give testimony tonight? Mr. Jolly?
Hi, this is Travis Taylor. I'd be willing to offer testimony.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Did you want to give testimony tonight?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, I'll have to swear you in.
Okay.
You swear that the testimony is given in this case now and hearing will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Would you state your name and address to the record?
Travis Taylor, 28686 North, 3050 East Road, Chenoa, Illinois, 61726.
You get that, Phil? Okay, if you go ahead.
All right, I'll be short and brief with this, but I would like the county ZBA to consider the amount of available resources they have dedicated to overseeing another wind farm project through this, given the lack of oversight with the current projects already going on. I currently live within the EDPR wind farm and travel frequently through the Invenergy wind farm that's going up. And we currently are having ongoing problems with our water quality, road conditions, internet connection, when turbines are turned to the east, cell phones calls that are frequently lost, or when there was never a previous issue in any way, shape, or form. And with the ongoing concerns with the decommissioning funds, escrow accounts, and or other ways to verify of that, it sounds like there's quite a handful of things that are still yet to be decided on existing projects. These are all items that the county should be preventing, not reacting to with the citizens' complaints. And the ongoing complaints of the citizens should greatly increase your concern before approval of future projects. I really think that Catherine Metzger hit the nail on the head with citizens' exhaustion in asking for help. I was ensured that this would not affect my life and that it would not, and that has not been further from the truth.
Okay, would anyone have questions of Mr. Taylor on the board? Julia?
Travis, can you tell me a little bit more about the cell phone issues you guys are having?
I mean, the biggest issue is sometimes we'll have great quality service, and sometimes you'll be in the exact same location that you were 10 minutes before, but the turbines will have turned, and you'll go from 4 bars to maybe 1 to no bars, and the data issue is a huge. I mean, the phone calls are usually better than the data issue, but when you lose internet due to turbine turning from our internet coming in on satellite, it makes it hard when we switch to our cell phones, and then we lose that, several minutes later. So it's an ongoing, which we have never had a problem with prior to this. And I don't know that there is a way to know how it was going to happen, but it definitely needs to be something that's solved.
Travis, have you, in talking with your providers, have they mentioned, I mean, there's a lot more people using it now, or have they definitely pointed to the windmills?
We're limited on our service abilities. We've talked to our providers. We've moved our satellite location several times. We've tried different locations. We're limited on our property as it is due to existing trees that have been here, some of them for over 100 years. So the biggest issue is that there's, as obviously was mentioned before, there's so many turbines so close to us that it's hard to get clear shots.
I certainly understand the pain of internet out in our area. We have no cable provider, and it is very frustrating, especially now with kids at home and stuff. So how has the wind farm responded?
It's not their problem. When you ask them about it, the general response, it's hard to get a response out of them directly. We're still waiting on a response from Phil Dick on some of this. So it's been hard in multiple directions.
And you mentioned something about water quality.
Yeah, last year when it was extremely dry right after they had got done digging the holes early last summer, it was real dry for 6 weeks, I would say. right after they dug the holes and drilled down around our home. And we noticed that the smell was about, we walked in the door sometime, house, even before you ran, just from what was in traps. We talked with Phil Dick, we talked with county water and septic. They came out. The only test that they really truly ran was for E. coli to test to make sure that we didn't have anything from our septic getting into our well. And then they also tested for bacterial content. And they said all the other tests were not their problem because ultimately the homeowner is responsible for their well quality after that. And we haven't ever had a problem prior to that. We purchased our house 4 years prior and all the tests came back fine. And the previous owner had no water quality smell, but now we have sediment and sulfur smell quite frequently. And we never had that previously. And we were informed by the county that it's not really their problem because it's all on a private well. So, I mean, that's something that I think should be looked at prior to the wind farms being built. Anybody that's within a mile and a half should probably have their well checked with what kind of minerals and bacteria. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard, you know, when you go up to put your kids in a bath at night and it smells like sulfur for 5 minutes and you got to drain it and refill it twice.
So why are you pointing to the windmills? And I'm not being facetious here. I'm truly curious. How could they impact that?
Well, when they drilled the foundations near our house, they disrupted the soil during a very dry time and they went fairly deep. We'd never had in 5 years had any kind of water quality issue. It had always been the same. Never had sediment, the changing color of the sediment. And after they did that, it had changed the smell, changed the color, changed the sediment. I have a hard time believing that was just a coincidence when it has never happened previously.
Have you had anybody come out, any, well people or whatever come out and tell you what they think it is?
We don't have the money to just throw at, I mean, some of the tests are hundreds, some of the tests are thousands. I've talked to some, but they all say the exact same thing. Some of the tests are hundreds of dollars, some of the tests are thousands of dollars. And I'm not gonna just throw a guessing game at it. We do the best we can. We change filters, sometimes every 3 days, sometimes every couple of weeks. Should last up to 3 months. So, I mean, it's just an ironic situation that they came out, they wanted to measure. And actually, the county guy that came out wanted to measure didn't even bring a clean tape measure. He said, the only tape measure I have with me is I've been measuring septics with. So I don't really want to stick it in your clean water. So, I just feel like it's ironic that they send somebody, that you guys, the county, sent somebody out to help solve a solution, and they didn't even point us in the right direction of a company to contact to have it tested, which made it frustrating more than anything.
I'm sure. Thank you.
Travis, you also mentioned the roads. What's going on with the roads?
I mean, the dust was the biggest issue in the erosion control. I mean, when we travel through the roads, there's potholes galore. The dust you can hardly see. I mean, there's been construction vehicles that have had to stop because they can't see in front of them while traveling. I mean, in front of houses, it's usually better, but the rest of it, when you can't travel down the road without seeing. There's also, we have pictures of our house that you can't even see our house from the road because of the dust. And it all comes inside of our house when the windows were open. I mean, our road in July was recently repaved, but I mean, in January or late December, the EDPR had said that they were done with the project, and it wasn't until July that they actually put any tar and chip back on the road. So that took 6 months from quote completion of the project, which, I mean, in any other construction project wouldn't be acceptable.
But I think tar and chip does need hot weather, correct?
I mean, regardless, if the tar and chip's down, you don't get the potholes that were incurred. And we were told over and over by the county that
Number and then what, the hashtag or pound?
Oh, you're here, you're talking.
Okay. Yeah, hang on just a second. Can you hear, hang on a minute, hang on, we'll get it here. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me on the computer?
Yeah, we can hear you, but Travis is talking right now. Can you turn yourself off?
Well, I'm on the phone with your tech support guy there in the room, so I'll hang up on him and I'll talk to him. Thank you. Thank you.
For you, Mr. Jolly.
Okay, just to confirm, you can hear me right now, correct?
Right.
Okay. Give this a try and see what we got.
Why don't you guys mute your thing for a while here. We're still talking to somebody else.
Oh, okay.
Sure, I'm still here.
I have a question for Phil. We're talking about the internet stuff, and I thought there was we had that in one of our stipulations that can't be interrupted to any of these people. So is there something that we're missing here? But I thought that was in our ordinance that they cannot be interrupted.
Mr. Taylor did send me an email yesterday that I need to follow up with and am in the process of following up. But yeah, the EDPR is responsible to deal with some of those issues that he's bringing up. And the health, he had met with the health department about 6 months ago. And then I heard again yesterday from him that he has some other issues, and I will follow up.
Okay.
Is there any other? Yeah.
Would anyone else have questions, Mr. Taylor? And then I think
Oh, I think I just wanted to make it aware that there's problems within the wind farm and that you guys currently say that you don't hear about them. So this way you guys can know that there's an issue to be aware of before we approve more. So.
okay, thank you. Would you mute your microphone? Okay, I think we can go Mr. Jolly now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can. We're going to have to swear you in.
Okay.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case now and hearing be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Would you state your name and address of the record?
Okay, my name is Tim Jolly, Jolly. I live on 2700 North Road, Chenoa.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay, well, first and foremost, just as before, I want to object to this format. And I think this is ridiculous that we try to do this not in person. Like I said, the project isn't for a few years. I don't see what the hurry is, but regardless, I just hope that there isn't any preconceived decisions already made because of the things that have been done in the past. It just seems like it's a done deal before we even start. So with that, the thing is I agree with especially Travis, Sandy Whalen, Gary and Amy and Lori. We have a mess out here. They increased the height of the windmills the last time when EDP and Invenergy came in, and we were the guinea pigs. And life is horrible out here now that they are up and running. We live 2,000 feet away from one directly to the south, but we're surrounded by 6 within a mile. The noise is like a jet engine laboratory. It's like a 747 hovering above your house. And it don't stop until the wind calms down. But even when the wind stops, they feed electricity to the windmills to keep the gearboxes running. I talked to the manager that ran the EDP project, and they run electricity to them so that they keep the gearboxes lubed and they keep things running. And that makes a noise similar to this. It don't stop. The biggest thing that you're talking about, putting up bigger windmills now. It was stated at the last meeting that they're going to maybe break the loads down into smaller loads. The millions of tons that have been brought out on the roads that had to be tore up, ground up to gravel, and run on gravel roads for 2 years just about. But if you're going to break up loads into smaller loads, then you're going to have more loads. As Travis said, the dust has been horrible. Mr. Dick, I would like for you to address the many complaints that you've had and the follow-up that had to be done and the lack of action taken by these windmill companies to try to appease the people that live here. Supposed to water roads, but they water in front of the house of people. They don't water the entire roads. It gets so bad where you meet other vehicles on the road and you can't even see what's behind them. I've met wide loads that have been right behind another vehicle that just about took off the roof of my car. I work a mail route. I'm out there every single day. I've had 2 cars ruined. The second one, McLean County is going to pay for the whole front end of my car being put back underneath. The chuck holes are horrible. I don't think there's anybody sitting on this board that would want to have their roads tore up for 2 years, return to gravel, traffic nonstop. And when EDP ran, they went to a 24/7 schedule. So you had cement trucks going the entire night long with their Jake brakes coming up to pass people's houses. Totally disruptive. People can't sleep. We have jobs and we have lives too. I don't think you would want to settle for that. Like I said, we seem to be the test animals for the height of these other towers. And now you're going to, this Geronimo company is expecting to make them even 125 more feet higher. And they couldn't even provide the data to show the noise increase, noise decrease, efficiency, anything that would show that it would be beneficial to the county, and it ought to be beneficial to the residents first. So they don't even have the information to show that it's even within the means of even needing to put it there. They claim that there's going to be lower RPMs. Well, the lower RPMs that are measured at a hub does not mean that the blade speed is slower. The blade speed, when you go out to the length of the blades that they have, are faster. And which means killing more birds, bats, wildlife, things that are beneficial to our environment. The cost of all these projects are to the residents and to the society. It's all irreversible for our lifetime. Health issues and noise are huge things with these. And you're not even getting those addressed until you try to get another permit put in. All they do, these companies, they're littering the landscape. They destroy our neighborhoods. The more loads, the more problems. People are inconsiderate that work for some of these companies, and I grant it, there's maybe a few that are that way. I dealt with EDP. I had not many problems with them. But then Invenergy come into town, and White Construction Company is absolutely horrible. They try to appease you, and I'm sick and tired of hearing, we're gonna do this, or we were just talking about that. Nothing happens. Like I said, I'd like Mr. Dick to at least make a statement as to how many complaints and how many things that I have registered with him, but let alone I know many other people. Like Lori said, my voice is one, but I can guarantee you I represent at least 500 to 1,000 people that live out here. If they keep the same height, if you rule to just leave the height as is, it's not going to stop their project. If you increase the height, it's not going to make any more money for the county, as testified last time. I guess the other thing too is the noise. I guess I was a little bit frustrated to hear two people sitting on the zoning board to make a comment that they went and listened to a windmill and they didn't think that it was that big a deal. But then I also heard at the last meeting somebody make a comment that they went to the ones down from Bloomington to Saybrook, and then they came up here to Chenal and they didn't really notice a difference. Apples and oranges, not even close. I've done the same thing and I can't believe the difference in the height and the difference. I've been up to Odell, I've been down to the ones from Bloomington to Saybrook, and these, the ones behind my house with EDPR, I believe the 550 feet height, they're unreal. Big difference. So you can't say that they're the same thing or even less. The efficiency is not any better with these taller windmills. All they are getting is bigger megawatts and more subsidies. Subsidies and tax credits are based on the size of the project and the turbines put up. And the bigger ones they put up, the more money they get. This is not a profitable way to generate electricity without subsidies and tax credits. Keep that in mind when you're affecting the people's health in your own county. Don't throw us under the bus to try to appease the pocketbook. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from Mr. Jolly from the board?
Mr. Jolly, how many complaints have you registered?
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said you wanted Mr. Dick to tell how many complaints that he had gotten from you and the folks out there. How many complaints have you made?
Well, I don't have an exact number, but let's say an average of probably 4 per week. There would be sometimes I would call 2 times a day because things weren't getting done. Mr. Dick isn't actually the only one to get my complaints. I've talked to Jerry Stokes with McLean County Highway Department. The county blacktops were just annihilated and they were unsafe to the point. I've got pictures, and this is why I need to be there so I could show pictures in person. But I've got all kinds of calls to Jerry Stokes. I've got all kinds of calls to Phil Dick. I would in the hundreds.
Phil, can you give us any idea of how many different people have called you with complaints of this sort?
I have received regular complaints from about 6 or 8 people, and I encourage them to call me whenever there's an issue of noise and dust, because I don't know about it unless they tell me, and I ask them if they're complaining to me to also complain to Invenergy or to EDP, depending on which company is involved. And there's been a time where the dust was such an issue that Jerry Stokes and I would regularly go out to the wind farms. We had a deal. Each one of us would be out there every day, just to see which roads are all dusty. And I have come up with the idea that I don't think they should pulverize the blacktop roads before they start construction. I think that's a mistake. I don't think you can keep the dust down once it's pulverized. And I know there's a dispute about that because they don't think they can have a good stable base until they have all these vehicles driving on the gravel roads to compact it. But I think that this is the first time I've ever noticed it being such a big issue with dust. And I don't see how you can hardly maintain a dust-free environment when you have this much construction going on and you have a dry season. It's just going to be dusty. There's no way around it. So I'm going to be working to try to figure out a way, if we have any more wind farms, so that they don't have the pulverizing of the roads before they start construction. But I know that it's a pain for Mr. Jolly and Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Sleater, but I asked them to continue to call me. Even that's a resource as far as I'm concerned. So but we have received a lot of complaints, and we follow up with each one.
May I interject here, please? This is Tim Jolly. May I interject?
Go ahead.
Okay. I do not want to see the roads left. I don't want to see the projects, period, now. But the roads, if you leave them intact, they are not built for those kind of loads. These loads are an average of 166,000 pounds, and they're huge. So the county blacktops, I believe, are probably the 80 or 100,000 pound able to handle those loads, and they annihilated them. I mean, they had chuck holes, and I think Mr. Dick can attest to this, that I was furious one day. It took the front end of my car out. It knocked all the bushings out. It hit so hard. It wallers it out right where all the concrete trucks and these heavy loads go, where their tires go. So it mushes them out to the side. So you have a potholes where the wheels are. You have a mound in the middle of ground up pavement and a mound on each side of where your tires go. And that's on a county blacktop. So I don't know what the answer is, other than I don't know what the answer is. You got to keep them off the road at them kind of weights. We get in trouble for taking our grain trucks in and they're overloaded, or semis that are overloaded. But these guys are allowed to run 170,000 pound loads. Unreal, unreal. And we as residents should not be the ones policing these projects. I would suggest that you put into your notebook or whatever, that you put in to charge the companies whatever it takes to staff 2 people to run day and night to watch these projects and to check the roads, and just keep on top of it. And then if they have so many violations, shut them down, stop them in their tracks right then, and you will get their attention. That's what needs to be done. For these roads were unsafe. There was a kid just 2 weeks ago, was coming back from Bloomington up towards Chenal, hit one of them chuck holes, busted his windshield. 18 years old or under, in the dark. And they put up a sign beside it that says bump. They don't even go out there and rake anything back into the holes. So it's an unsafe environment totally. The dust, lack of respect of drivers. They've got a speed limit up of 25 mile an hour on gravel. The guy with EDP actually gave me a radar gun. And because they knew I had that radar gun, the majority of them, almost all of them, stayed under. But this white construction company is game on. I've caught them going 55. I've got them going 60. I do it all the time. And there's no regard from white construction or Invenergy. Thank you. I'll rest.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Jolly? Mr. Griffin, do you have any questions for Mr. Jolly?
No, we don't.
Okay. We're gonna move on to the next. Does anyone else want to give testimony in this case? Turn your mic off, Mr. Jolly.
Okay, thank you.
I don't actually see anybody else with their mic open. I think at this point, do the people that give testimony want to give them a closing statement?
The applicant does, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to give the applicant a chance to rebut testimony and then go to closing statements?
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I want to address a few of the issues that have been raised. First of all, there were some questions, statements about turbine noise and how taller turbines might affect that. I'll briefly summarize what we had stated, and then I'll ask Michael Morris to also testify in rebuttal. But again, the county already has in place a requirement that any project that is applied for a special use must have a noise modeling study and must demonstrate that the project is going to meet the requirements of the Illinois Pollution Control Board and their noise standards. And that is true regardless of the height of the turbine. That standard does not change. It does not increase if the turbines are taller. That standard stays the same. So for any future project, regardless of turbine height, that comes before the county for a special use permit is going to have to demonstrate to the zoning board and to the county board that it meets that noise standard. So that is not changeable based upon the turbine height, and we are not seeking any change to that noise standard. And then I'll ask Michael, can you please provide some information? There was some testimony about taller turbines being noisier. Are you able to refute that, please?
Sure, thanks, Jim. And I think it might be useful, Phil, we had provided a couple of documents, some manufacturer sound specifications for a couple of turbines that are being considered for the project. I don't know if it'd be possible to share those. I think those would be a good example that we could just demonstrate the point that Jim is trying to make. So do you have a way to share those two documents on the screen?
Yes, Daryl in our office will work at that right now.
Okay. I think while they're working on setting it up, just generally the point that we're looking to make is that, the manufacturers will warrant a sound power level that is independent of the turbine hub height. It really is just a function of, excuse me, it is just a function of, the blade geometry and the blade rotational speed. Okay, there we go. I think I see that the document for the 2X127 platform. Does everybody else on the call see this document?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great, thank you. So if you wouldn't mind, so the 2X127, this is a common turbine that's being deployed across the US right now. And I believe Invenergy is in the process of installing a few of these turbines right now at their project, if I remember correctly. But if you wouldn't mind flipping to page 6 of this document. All right, so what's being shown here is the warranted sound power level as a function of wind speed. So if you look at the first row of this chart, or of this table, it's just showing the the hub height wind speed increasing from 4 to 15 meters per second. 4 is right around the cut-in speed where the turbine will start to operate, and 15 is around the wind speed at which the turbine reaches its rated power. As you can see, the warranted sound power level does increase as a function of wind speed, but then it is independent of the hub height, because you can see, they're just saying that it's regardless of the actual hub height that the turbine is installed at, it's still warranted to, in this case, produce up to 108.5 decibels per turbine. So this turbine is offered at, I believe, 89, 114, and 134 meter hub heights. And you can see, no matter which hub height is chosen, it's still the same sound power level will apply. And then if you wouldn't mind flipping over to the other document that we submitted into the record. This document is a slightly newer turbine that was just recently announced by the same manufacturer, General Electric. And so this one has a slightly higher generator rating and a slightly longer blade. But if you will switch to, I believe it is page 7, just one moment. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind putting it on page 7. And so you can see here, again, what they're showing a similar diagram, similar table, the hub height wind speed and the maximum sound power level that the turbine will produce. And here in this case, it's actually 1/2 decibel lower than the 2X127 that we were just looking at. And it's also important to note in that small middle table there, they're saying that this warranted sound power level is independent of hub height. So, getting back to the point that Jim was trying to make, the turbine will emit the same amount of sound regardless of the hub height that's chosen. So, raising the allowable turbine height per the zoning ordinance will not result in us using louder turbines, because the turbine will produce the same output regardless of how tall it is.
And Michael, how does the blade length affect noise that's produced by a turbine while spinning?
So generally, a longer blade can spin at a slower rotational speed to achieve the same rated capacity. And so what that means is, a longer blade spinning slower will have less aerodynamic noise. I believe one of the folks who gave some testimony earlier had referred to the same aerodynamic noise concept that, she said she spoke with a physicist, and that's exactly the same concept that I'm describing here.
Right, thank you, Michael. I also want to address, there were some comments about interference with internet and cell phone connections. Again, on other projects, of course, the Sapphire Sky project that Geronimo has under development, we don't yet have an application filed. But your ordinance, as you probably know, on the zoning board requires that the applicant provide a microwave beam path analysis and a telecommunication analysis to demonstrate that the project will not result in disruption of telecommunication services. And so that would be part of any application for a special use that may be filed. And keep in mind that one of the benefits of allowing taller turbine heights, which we pointed out in our presentation, is that a project can be built with fewer turbines that are spaced out further, as opposed to smaller turbines in closer proximity to each other. So there are significant advantages to allowing taller turbines with a greater nameplate capacity. That allows the project to have less turbines, and that means less impacts. So we do think there are benefits to having these taller turbines. pre-turbine of turbine blades?
Sure. You know, in the last hearing, we made some statements regarding turbine blades and their general makeup. And so, you know, actually in between the time, I actually reached out to a company that recycles turbine blades. So overall, you know, as we've seen, you know, relatively few turbine blades have been decommissioned or retired to date, I should say. And the recycling of the blades is seen as pretty much an emerging market as more and more wind farms are getting to the point of their life where they may be decommissioned. And as we stated, you know, the blades are comprised primarily of fiberglass and other non-toxic materials such as balsa wood and carbon fibers, and they don't pose any environmental risk in and of themselves. And those materials are recyclable. It's just a matter of getting them to a stage where they can be repurposed and do other things. And so, you know, by the time the blades for instance, our project, Sapphire Sky, or, you know, other wind farms that are just being built would be replaced or decommissioned, you know, we anticipate a pretty robust recycling market for the turbine blades because of just the sheer amount of product that you'd have these companies able to reclaim and repurpose into other uses. You know, we've seen a couple of companies, one in which I reached out to, pop up performing this type of work. There's one company that just opened up their second plant. They have one in Texas. They just opened one up in Iowa, where they take in wind turbine blades. They grind them up essentially and make them into pellets that you can then injection mold for flooring, decking, excuse me, siding, or other injection molding kind of plastic uses. And so, you know, we would fully intend that, you know, the blades that we would end up building would be recycled at that time. You know, when we would either, you know, replace or decommission our projects. But I think it just is a testament to, you know, it's a relatively emerging market, and, you know, we see a lot of companies coming up to meet a demand for a product that they can use and repurpose and resell into other products. So I think that's what we wanted to state in regards to some of the concerns about recycling or landfills for the turbine blades that was discussed last hearing.
Thank you, Ben. I also want to discuss, and I'll bring Michael Morris into this again. There was some testimony and statements about the impacts that taller turbines may have. But I want to emphasize to the ZBA that your ordinance already requires various studies and analyses be done regardless of a turbine height. For example, IDNR must consult on any new projects, and their consultation includes a review of the project, its location, the proposed turbines, the proposed turbine heights, and what those turbines are proximate to from an environmental and habitat standpoint. So that same review is done and would be presented, that consultation would be presented to the zoning board regardless of the turbine height. And that turbine height is simply another factor that is utilized in doing this consultation and environmental analysis. Additionally, your ordinance requires that all turbines meet national and international specifications. That's right in the ordinance. So any turbine, a modern, more efficient turbine that's taller is still going to have to meet the standards that has been set forth in the McLean County zoning ordinance. Michael Morris, as far as turbine heights and increases in turbine heights, what can you reiterate to the board about what has occurred over the past 25 years and how these turbine heights affect project siting and development?
Sure, thanks, Jim. It's really just following a general trend of making the wind industry more competitive, larger blades, more megawatt hours per unit. And I think it's really important too to point out that regardless of who we buy turbines from, there is an extensive technical review and certification process that every unit would have to go to in order to be accepted by investors in this environment. And so, everybody who's built a wind farm in the county has already gone through that. We would need to do the same thing. And I believe the ordinance requires us to, provide copies of those certifications as part of it as well. Then, even as turbines do get taller, the setbacks from the county ordinance are still based on the actual height. So we would be required to set back even further from roads, from transmission lines, from residences, from other sensitive features. And so we we don't anticipate that the impacts would be any larger than permitting a wind farm using shorter towers.
Michael, let me ask you about the FAA analysis, and how is turbine height impact that analysis, and how does that compare to the county's current height limit of 550 feet?
Yeah, so turbines that are above 550 feet would not be studied any differently than turbines that are built at between 500 and 550 feet. It's really a binary above or below that 500-foot threshold that triggers a different standard of FAA review. So, permitting turbines at a height above 550 feet wouldn't change how the FAA views it or how they study it.
So it would be the same review for turbines between 500 and 550 feet as for turbines between 550 and 675 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that FAA review and finding of a determination of no hazard, that's still required for any future projects in McLean County or anywhere else, correct?
That's correct. Any project that gets built in the U.S. has to go through that process.
That's all the rebuttal testimony we have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
There you go.
Mr. Griffin, I think we might have a problem with your PowerPoint that you brought up because we had protesters that weren't able to see it. So maybe you could explain it better. I think, is that right, Phil?
I think you need to explain the PowerPoint to a person who doesn't see it, to explain how it demonstrates your argument.
By PowerPoint, are you referring to the two GE acoustic documents that we went over earlier tonight?
Correct.
Okay. Well, there was each page we focused on a page of each of the documents, and it was a table with a lot of data, of course. But what the data shows is that the total sound power level for these two GE turbines in comparison showed that the turbine with the longer blades was actually quieter than the turbine with the shorter blades. And Michael Morris, am I stating that correctly? Can you please confirm that?
Yes, that's correct.
So what those numbers showed was the sound power level in dBA. And so it showed, for example, for the GE 3.0.
Phil, can I interrupt for a second, please? Phil, this is Chris Spanos. For those of you on the ZBA board who don't know me, I'm the new first civil assistant. And there's a problem right now with the presenters are presenting this evidence, and the participants that are there by phone cannot see the evidence that's being presented, and therefore would not be able to rebut or offer any comments in response to what's being shown. So we need to stop and consider how we can properly present that evidence so that the people who want to have a say in it can do that effectively.
Well, so we can present the exhibits purely for demonstrative purposes to explain.
Excuse me, sir. I appreciate your position on that, but as counsel to the ZBA, I think it's up to the ZBA to determine whether or not they need to go forward. And at this point, you're presenting evidence that these people who have a say in the process, or at least should have an opportunity to respond, can't see the evidence that you're presenting, sir.
We also presented a PowerPoint into the record earlier in the testimony in the prior date.
Is it possible to email it to the people who want to see it?
It's certainly possible for us to do so.
I'm not 100% sure that that's going to adequately address the issue. So I think we need to figure out a way to get it to those people or present it in front of those people so that they can have an opportunity.
Can we put it on the county website where they would have access to it there?
We probably could do that. I'm not a technical guru by any means, but I don't know how quickly or efficiently we can present that.
Our tech guy says he can do that. So if we could present it that way, I think we have something maybe would work. Everybody's shaking their head yes in my room. So we'll give him a couple minutes to get that up.
Can we take a 5-minute break while they do that?
I would just add that I was having trouble seeing it on the screen here too. I mean, those kind of tables are easy to see when we're in the county boardroom and there's a big screen, but I was stretching to be able to see what the numbers were. I don't know if anybody else was, but.
Hey, Mary Beth, I was until I noticed that you could hit the plus. There's a plus on there that you can make
side. Yeah, I tried to do it on my screen, touch screen, and I couldn't get it done. And yeah.
But they weren't part of the packet, right? I don't have a hard copy.
No, we don't have a hard copy of that. No, I don't think we do.
We do not.
We've not gotten it back.
We received it at 4:30 today.
Sorry about that. I got kicked out. I'm back. Jonathan says that he can do it by tomorrow, but he can't do it tonight, if I read that correctly. He says, yes, that's correct.
This is Tim Jolly. May I interject, please?
Not at this time.
I guess I want to object that I believe that it's new evidence being put into for us to view that hasn't been brought in before. If it was just put in at 4:30 or whatever today, that would be something that wasn't part of past testimony. That's my objection.
On that, we're working on that.
And that's what happens in rebuttal testimony. New information is presented to respond to prior testimony.
I didn't think you could submit new information. You just had to rebut what it was before without submitting new evidence.
Well, additional evidence can be presented in rebuttal if it's in response to issues that are raised by the objectors. But the point being is that the objectors at this point, the people on the telephone, can't see what's being presented. And I think they have a right and an opportunity to see that so that they can ask questions and respond.
I think it's a very good point, and my counsel says that we're kind of at a standstill because we can't move on because they can't see what you presented. So I think we're almost gonna have to recess.
Yeah, I'd move that we table this until the October meeting where maybe we can have it in person.
What do you
I
think?
agree.
You need a second?
I'd second that, or go ahead.
I
We have to
second it.
recess to a certain time, so I don't know, we gotta consult with Phil here.
Could we recess until 7:30 PM on October 6th? 7:30 PM?
We'll have our technical stuff out of the way by then, hopefully. But I think that's the only thing, the fair thing to do tonight is recess until our October meeting, which is what night, what day?
October 6th.
October 6th at 7:30. And I think that's what we have to do. So we're gonna recess for tonight.
Could I just ask Phil a favor too, if something could be done by the time we get to that meeting? I'm wondering if there could be some summary data on these complaints that are coming in about cell phones and water quality. If we could have data showing how many people are calling with that issue to look at too at our next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're in recess. Thanks for coming.